Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Delta Lodge Outdoors. This is your host, Julius Craig, today, which, hell, I think everybody knows who the host is by this point. No guests, just a little short, probably won't be too long of a podcast, just go through some things. Got this morning, it's September the 8th, Sunday. Just going to drop the 10th, so Tuesday. It's like 57 degrees here at the house. Super excited, good weather. Hopefully we start getting more of a cool off. Hopefully y'all getting the cool offs where you're at. I know looking at weather for North Louisiana for a month out, I look about right now 2 weeks out. We're showing like mid 80s and mid 60s in the day and mid 60s at night. So not too bad compared to what it usually is down there if it'll stay. So it won't be too bad of a hunt like that. Didn't do anything on the box end this weekend. It was actually opening a football season for my youngest son, and last year was his first year to play football, and he was in 5th grade, but he actually skipped a grade and his birthday's late. So yesterday was his first game of the season. He's 10. He just turned 10 Friday. He plays for on the 6th grade team. He earned a starting spot this year, so definitely was excited about that for him because he's worked his ass off to get there. He started as a cornerback. He made second or third play of the game. He made a bonehead play on his. He never ran. He just jogged behind his receiver on the route. Receiver caught the ball and he never sped up and tackled him. I called him to the sidelines. I was like, "Hey man, what the hell happened?" He's like, "I just wasn't thinking, Dad." He's like, And I was like, "Okay, cool. Get it together. Don't do it again. Just a little pep talk because, I'm in the stands. I don't coach because I would be honest, especially with it being my kid. If I'd have been the coach and he did that, I would have benched him. And at least for a couple series just to prove a point, even if he was the best one out there, which my kid's not the best one out there, but, he's good enough to start. And but I a lot of y'all guys my age and older, I'm 39, and a lot of you guys around my age and older can feel where I'm coming from with that because y'all played for coaches that would, you'd got benched for stuff like that, or at least your head ripped off, even in junior high. I played for a junior high coach. It was, he was rough on us. Turned out a lot of good boys though. So super proud of, after that, I talked to him. He made a couple pass deflections and a few tackles and everything. So overall, good game. His team won like 50-6 or something like that, 50-12, and that was literally the halftime score. And the other team was like, "We're done." So super proud of him. His first start and playing cornerback, and he plays for a predominantly run team. So he doesn't see much passing in practice. He spends a lot of time, chasing his running back. So proud of him. Hopefully he just gets better and gets more understanding of the game, and appreciate what they do with the kids and everything. Because like I said, the reason I wouldn't coach is I'd have ripped him a new one and probably benched him. But it was, if it would have been my kid, I'd have probably just benched him. If I was the coach and he was my kid, he'd have got his head ripped off and a new behind chewed out, and just. But I played for coaches that were like that, so it's hard to be different. But it's also a good thing, I guess. You got to read the room. You got to know what you're working with, and that leads me into what I'm gonna talk about today. And I say read the room. Talk about reading your sign for deer hunting. Right now, this year, just about everybody has huge acorn crops, from what I'm seeing. And I have a massive one here at my place, which I'm good with that because we last year very limited acorns, so deer were they were predictable on feed, especially after the few acorns they had were gone. This year there's a lot of acorns, so I think it's going to take a little bit longer for them to get on feed, so I think it's going to affect a lot of people's hunting. I'm so that's going to affect how my boys hunt, because there's some oak trees with good acorns right there by their stand and their feeder and everything, and you're still gonna have the corn lovers or whatever, like whatever you're feeding. You're still gonna have the feeder hippies that are gonna show up to the feeder no matter what, because they're just glutton. They're gonna eat the acorns and then they're gonna come there and eat the feed too. Usually that's does, but need to do a little doe population control here, so we're excited about that. Like I said, didn't work on the stand this weekend. I've got it to the point where it just needs a roof on it, and it's huntable. So I've got the metal laying there to put the roof on it. Just didn't do it. Spent yesterday hanging out with the wife and kids all day, and we're gonna. And then we went to the game. Then today I'm gonna record. Then I need to start phase 5,257,000 of cleaning my shop up. The man cave area. Then I've also been working on a combo stand for something and I need to fit it. I need to do a little more work on that today, and I should have one completely ready and my prototype ready. And I'll have to make a couple more and send to a couple of my buddies, and we'll actually probably be running those for ourselves in this deer season and see how they turn out. And it's really, if it works the way I've got it in mind, it's a really sick design that's super simple and effective, which is one of our mottos here at Delta Flies Outdoors. It's we want to be super simple but yet effective. Like, nothing has to be complex. That's one thing that in life aggravates the teetotal dog shit out of me, especially in the business I'm in with construction and everything. You got people that have been doing this 20, 30 years, whatever. And I say that in the aspect of 20 years. I'm 39. I've been doing this. This is my 19th year for large companies. I grew up around, house construction and remodels and additions and everything. From the time I was 5, I was on roofs with my dad laying shingles out. I thought we were spending time together. I was just free labor. But from the time I was like 12 up, I worked for my uncle during the summers and sometimes after school doing remodels and additions and stuff like that. Like, I learned the aspects of that. Then I went into like large civil construction with roadways and everything, like heavy civil when I was like 20. So it's I'm that guy that's been in it 20 or 30 years, but a lot of people don't realize it because of my age, and they just assume that I'm young and haven't been doing it. So with that, it's a dig at the 30-year plus guys that are 20 years older than me. A lot of those guys, not all of you, so don't take it out of context or what it is. A lot of those guys are the type that they want to make things seem complex so that they're the only ones that know how to do it because of an insecurity level, I guess. And where I'm leading into that and back into the deer world is you've got guys that are great at what they do, that will make things seem they'll make them complicated, overcomplicated and complex and everything, so that it's like this really hard regimen of what they do and they teach and and that's so they can, I don't know, butter up their ego, make it bigger, make it feel like they're something. Then you got guys that are doing something that's simple, plug and repeat, and have outstanding results, and it's nothing really complex, and they're willing to teach it and show it, and they break it down where it's simple to do. Dan Infault's one of those guys that, like, what he's doing is not, and this is not a dig at Dan, love Dan's work. I've had Dan on the podcast, would love to have him on again. What Dan's doing is not complicated, and even he'll tell you that. It's taking the same thing that Brandon Adams and I talked about: food, bed, and wind. If you understand those three things, whitetail deer hunting's a lot simpler. And you know, I can't think of the guy's name. He's always on the Deer Hunter podcast. They have the Road to Rut. They just call him Boogeyman. I can't think of his name. He talks about, I believe it's Boogeyman, that talks about, you know, like copy and paste. And it's taking something like, you look at the situation of, well, I've never hunted in, you know, Michigan swamp, but you grew up hunting in swampy areas and other places. They're gonna duplicate pretty much, is what he talks about. Some people, some people say they don't, but all right. I grew up hunting pine saplings and pine thickets and cutovers. You find where they're moving from one to the other for bed and food, and it's going to duplicate time after time. You just have to find where they're doing it at. And that's what they're getting at with the, you know, copy and paste. If it doesn't matter if it's hill country, swamp country, pine plantations, if you find the pattern and establish it and understand it, you can take that pattern and go to another and pull an aerial map out of anywhere you want to go hunt that has, you know, that basic setup, and that's going to put you in the ballpark to find deer. It's not going to be like, oh, they're going to, like, you're not going to be like, oh, well, they're on this point here, so they have to be on that. No, they're going to be in that area, but it gives you an idea of where to go. It's not, you're blind, but you're not, you know, retina detached blind. Like, you can still see a little bit, if that makes sense. Or let me put it, you're pulling it from a 30,000 foot view down to, like, you're going in there, and so just pull the map out like, oh, well, that looks like a pinch point, let's go there. That's your 30,000 point of view. But you're bringing it down to like 5 to 10,000 point of view. It's like, well, that's a pinch point in a swamp bed that's headed this. So it's an idea. It's not just, so, you know, copy, paste, rinse, repeat. You know, and where I'm going with that is, we make things complex so we feel better about ourselves. And this one's probably kind of like the last podcast about where I said if everybody cared. Like, there's changes that have to be made, and but it's quit complicating things and making it hard for people that are really wanting to get into this. And I think Facebook has created social media platforms created a lot of that, because you got guys on there that are really good about explaining and doing stuff, and they don't care. They want people to learn. Then you got, like, you know, and I get, like, if somebody blatantly is asking, like, well, I'm going to hunt Timbuktu WMA, you know, what spot's a good spot to go to? Well, there's, you know, don't be an asshole, but, like, people like that, yes, I get, like, if they're, it's no different from fishing. Well, I'm going to fish this, what spot do I go? Well, do your homework. But you don't have to be the asshole that, you know, y'all all know the smart ass comments and replies that, like, hey, I'm going to hunt this area, what's it like? Well, I'm not asking for a point. I'm not asking, and no, I haven't done this, but I read it all the time. I don't ever ask questions on there just because, like, you know, some keyboard warrior is going to be an asshat, and I'm going to tell them to, you know, go get fucked. So it just leads to, like, stupidity. It's like, I'll answer questions for guys like, hey, this is what I see. You know, it's like, that's all they're asking. But it's like, as long as we're assholes to other people that are, like, you can't be assholes to everybody then expect it to keep growing. Then when you're losing privileges because the states don't have the money, and that's a whole other thing, because I think we need to audit every state when it comes to money of how they spend it. But when the states are like, well, we don't have the money coming in to pay for this and do this, and you start losing properties because they can't lease them anymore, so the timber companies are leasing them out to public then, you know, private guys, you know, instead of the public landowner. So those attitudes of, you know, where we're at is what creates it. You can't be a dick and expect people to be okay and want to be in this fraternity or society or whatever you want to call it, because it really is. It's a brotherhood. And hunters, instead of it cracks me up because you got the trad bow guys are against the compound bow guys. Compound bow, well, I think everybody is against crossbow guys. Then bow guys are this or that about rifle guys or shotgun guys. And it's like, nope, we're all in the same, looking for the same outcome. We might do it a little different, but if we don't unite and have a front that, we're only like say 20% if the number's that big. That 20% that's against us, excuse me, sorry. That 20% that's against us, they're united, guys. We're not. We're fighting amongst ourselves. Then it's like, and that can go into you got the dog hunting guys that, the still hunt guys are against them, and they're against that. And we got to quit fighting or each other. Because fighting each other is keeping the eye off the ball of what's really going on. And you got to work on that. I know that's kind of in the roundabout way of, like I was saying, of reading sign. That's a tangent into reading sign. The biggest thing is, I can go back to football with my son, and it's like playing cornerback. You can read what that wide receiver is going to do. Most of them's going to on this level. As they get older and better, and you get the elite guys, they're not telegraphing as much as the young generation is, and so you have to read the sign that it's been put down in front of you. And you can take that into, like I said, that's him playing football. But I've taught him to read sign in the woods with deer hunting to understand what's going on. That scrape, I tell you, that scrape or that rub, you can look at it and see, is he doing it from on his way back to the bed, or is he doing it on the bed back out to food? That'll tell you what time of the day he's working that scrape or that rub. All right, is he at we'll go with your feeder or food plot. Is he there at 10 p.m. or is he there at 3 a.m.? There's some mathematics behind it that can give you a rough estimate of how far he's bedding from there. You get, they'll get up, Dan talks about one of the bucks he killed, got up, and he killed him right at the last light. It took him 60 minutes to move 75 yards. They're not just jumping up out of bed and running 100 yards to your feeder. So you got to take that into account and consideration. Just reading the sign and knowing what's going on with that. If he's coming there, and by what time he's getting there tells you, like I said, how far he's coming from. If it gets dark at 5:30, let's use that as okay. 5:30's in a shooting light, and he gets there at 6. His bed's 100, 200 yards from there. If he gets there at 10, 11 o'clock at night, his bed's probably 500 yards from there. You're not, if you kill that deer, it'll be in rut, because you got a doe that's hot and standing there. You're not going to kill him until he gets stupid. So you have to read the sign that's being given to you. You have to, they're going to telegraph what they're doing. As they get older, they get a little better. And that goes into, like I said, the football side of it with my son. You're playing 10 and 12-year-olds. Use the sideline as your friend. If you can make that wide receiver bust out to the sideline, most of the quarterbacks at this level, if they're on the far hash and you push them to the outside and they're on the far hash, they can't make that cross throw at this level. Say 95%. So that goes into, we can go and you take that, you look at going back into deer hunting. Okay, what time he's getting up. He can't make that. He's not going to make that distance, that time frame. So you've eliminated an area, and that's you have to start taking areas away from them, and that's where I'm going with that. And I know I'm referring back to football, and never really thought of that way. But it's like if you want to eliminate what area they have to work in on the field. You want to take that information he's giving you and eliminate this area or that area. You know where he's going, where he's at, and that's the biggest thing. Read the sign that's being given to you. I know, like, they got way better guys out there than me with podcasts, and way better guys that can explain stuff better. Listen to some of these guys, but right or wrong, listen to these different guys, because you're gonna know the difference of if they're full of shit or not. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. Some I listen to for shits and giggles. Some I listen to because I've picked up things from them. Some I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Why would they do this? Because it makes absolutely no sense. I'm not going to name those because I'm sure there's been times people have thought that about mine. And I know there's times that I'll say stuff and I feel like an idiot asking some of the questions I do to some of the guys that I've had on this podcast, because, like, I already know the answer and I already know why, but I'm trying to ask so that they explain it to the viewer can understand it, the listener can understand it, because just because I understand it and get it doesn't mean the next person does. Just like if you understand and get it doesn't mean that I do or Joe Bob does. So we need to do a better job of, if we're going to introduce people to this world and bring them into our group, teaching them. And it's a brotherhood, not brother. I'm not gonna get all of the political like bullshit of it's a sisterhood and all that. Not, brotherhood means the same thing. Like it's a group, and that's where we're at. And that goes to reading the sign. Read the sign. It could be with the person you're mentoring, or knowing if you need to mentor them. You got, I chuckle because, like, right now, like I said, it's a big acorn crop. I spun a camera 180 degrees, literally. It was facing to the south towards the fence row. North towards the fence row. And I spun it to the south side of that tree where it was facing back into it. It was a little bit of oaks and a fence row and, like, feeder and limited deer. Spun it 180 degrees back into the oak flat to the south side where the acorns are growing, and there's deer on it regular. They were there. I knew they were there because I was seeing the trails that they were using and everything. So I just had to change my approach. I read the sign that was given to me. It's just like, with the hunt we have coming up, I was like explaining to one of my buddies, because let's go. Neither one of them has ever hunted public land. And I was like, we'll go in and scout. We'll get there that Sunday. It opens Tuesday. We'll get there Sunday, set camp up late. We'll maybe make a little bit of scouting that evening. Then Monday do some scouting on some areas that I have pins dropped that I feel confident in. That way I can see what type of crop is going on there, because it's been a lot of rain this year. It's been raining there for the last few days. And expected to rain like the next 10 days. But we'll look at it, and that's what I told him. I said, on this place, I said, you find a trail, where they've crossed, like, from into the woods. You follow that in, and you're going to find where 2 or 3 trails meet that trail usually. You don't want to contaminate it. You want to stay off the trail, so you don't contaminate the trail. But you follow that in, check it. Usually where the 2 or 3 trails meet that one trail, there's bed and food source within so many yards of it. But most of the time you can step back and set up where you can watch all those trails that converge, and you're going to have the stuff you need within, distance where you'll see animals. And that's simplifying something that's, a lot of people think it's hard. You got to find the sign. Once you find the sign, you follow this, and you got to know what you're looking at. Like, you can tell a lot of times which way that trail is being used, a morning trail or an evening trail. If you look at, it's like if you ever get the opportunity to take like a tracking class, like from a professional tracker, whether it's a human tracker, animal tracker, or whatever, you should take it. It's amazing things you can learn and everything. or if you get into trapping, you can learn so much about animals by trapping, by running a trap line. You know, like, I know people talk about you can't beat a deer's nose, da da da. Well, a deer's nose is not as good as a coyote's nose, not as good as a bear's nose, but yet people trap them all the time. It's, I understand hunt the wind, I hunt the wind, but I also take in scent control. And I do not go the route that John Eberhart goes. Like, that's extreme. I use cover scents with the wind. And I use specific cover scent that I won't get into it on air. It's just something I do. I do not recommend doing it, and it may just be a false flag that makes me feel good, but it works for me, and I'm gonna stick with it, and that's what I'm gonna use as needed. But I also know that by doing what I do, I've walked the deer trails, then had deer walk the deer trail hours after me, 30 minutes after me, bucks, does, whatever. So I know what I do works, and I know why it works, but I'm not going to recommend it because it's not something you should do. It's something I do, and it goes against a bunch of, things that normal people would do. It's nothing illegal. It's just, I feel confident in what I'm doing, and it clearly, it's a brave, it's a, wild move, but it works for me. I've got a cousin that's tried it, and he doesn't like it. A couple of cousins, they don't like it. My dad won't do it, and not because they didn't see results, they just didn't like the idea of what they were doing. It has a hell of a smell to it. So you literally are gonna change clothes, have your duffel bag, drive to where you're going, change into your clothes, because they're gonna stink. Spray down with more of the stuff, go in and hunt, come back, strip your clothes down, put them back in your bag, and drive back to camp, or put good clothes on and drive back home. There's a lot of times I'll drive to where I'm gonna hunt at, and my boxers, if I like on the WMA, I might drive in my boxers and boots, or boxers and flip-flops, and get out, walk there and get dressed, then go in, come back, strip down side of the road after that hunt, and put jogging pants on and a t-shirt or whatever, and that way I can have clothes on and go. I might come the same way, shower shoes or some weird shit on, and my jogging pants, depends on the weather. If it's September, probably my boxers. If it's mid to late October, November, all that, I might have some jogging pants on and a shirt, and get out and change clothes. I've changed in snow flurries and sleet. It's just, is it a hardcore scent regiment? No. Is it something I do and believe in? 100%. But it's also reading the sign. I've been able to use it and seen what the deer do. Do I think you can fool a deer's nose 100%? No. All I think you're doing is buying yourself a little more time. Just like running a trap line. You didn't fool that animal. You took him off of his game just enough for him to fuck up. And that's what you need. That's what you're doing in the deer world. You got to take them off their game just long enough that you have the upper hand. So with that, I think I'm going to wind this one down. Remember, they're going to telegraph what they're doing. And that's from deer hunting to fishing to real life. Depends on the level of the person or animal you're going against, how much they telegraph. But watch, it's reading the room. You can, and that's in business and everything. That's number one. Number two is, like I say, when you're reading the sign, it tells you how far he's staying from where you're hunting, which way he's traveling to where you're hunting, all those things. Next is, yes, use the wind. Find something that you have confidence in, whether it's scent, wind, or whatever. Live by it, and you'll see results. Because if you're not confident in what you're doing, you won't see results. Lastly, remember, don't be an asshole. Teach the next generation. Teach the next generation. Bring them on. we have to be better ambassadors to the sport, no matter which way we hunt. Long as it's legal and the kill's legal, support them. Thanks, Julius Craig, Delta Lodge Outdoors.